Hey, what's up everybody? True Boxing here. Thanks for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we're doing the Ramirez versus Smith breakdown video, as former champions will collide on Saturday, October 7th in the main event of a DAZN card. Now before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support I can get as I continue to build my channel up here. So you have Gilberto Ramirez, the former two-time super middleweight champion of the world, returns to action. I believe this is his first fight since the loss to Dimitri Bivol last year. And you got Joe Smith also returning, coming off a loss. So these two guys are coming into this fight in a crossroads type fight. It's going to take place above the light heavyweight limit of 175. Joe Smith, the former light heavyweight champ, and Ramirez, the former super middleweight champ, colliding, like I said, crossroads type showdown here. Now, if you haven't seen my breakdown videos before, in a fight like this, which is a non-title fight, we will do what we do in all breakdown videos first, which is break down the fight, like what it means itself, you know, and all that stuff. Then I will ask the same questions of both fighters. I'll talk about them, what they're doing coming into the fight, you know, the streak they're on, their last 3 fights. And then again, we'll talk about, they'll ask the same 5 questions or 6 questions of them. And then we do, is it better for boxing if one or the other wins? And then at the end, I give my prediction on the fight. So this fight right here between Ramirez and Joe Smith. So it means a lot for both these fighters, because it really and truly is a crossroads fight. Both former champions, not youngsters anymore. You got Gilberto Ramirez, 32 years old, Joe Smith Jr., 34 years old, and both are coming off of one-sided losses. They're both still pretty well regarded at 175, but this is not a light heavyweight fight. They're fighting above the weight, so I think that's gonna help both of them, because they're both big light heavyweights. So they're technically fighting in the cruiserweight, you know, division, but are they gonna pursue cruiserweight, the winner, or will they pursue light heavyweight? And actually, it's not just for the winner, that could be for the loser too. If the loser loses, he might say, hey, I'll move to cruiserweight. So there's a lot riding on it though, to see where these guys still stand. Are they going to be still considered threats moving forward, or are they going to be considered gatekeeper type fighters? So you know, let's start with the A side in this fight, the favorite, which is the former two-time super middleweight champion of the world, Gilberto Ramirez. He enters this fight, his activity the last 3 years date back, or last 3 fights date back to December of 2021, when he got a victory over, Jesus, I am drawing a blank right now. Unieski Gonzalez. He ended up stopping Unieski Gonzalez in an entertaining fight. He beat him over 10 rounds to stay undefeated at the time. Then he returned in last year, I forget which month, it might have been April or June, to take on Dominic Bozell. Dominated him, 4th round knockout win, and that locked in a mandatory title shot with Dimitri Bivol, the WBA light heavyweight champion. And in November, following Bivol's win over Canelo earlier in the year, Ramirez would challenge Dimitri Bivol in a fight that some people were saying Bivol was going to struggle in, because Ramirez is a naturally bigger fighter where Canelo wasn't, and he throws a lot of punches. So some people thought Bivol was going to lose, and Bivol just absolutely neutralized Gilberto Ramirez. I actually predicted Bivol to win that fight convincingly, and he did. He completely outboxed and dominated Gilberto Ramirez, who didn't have an answer, and lost a one-sided shutout unanimous decision in my book. And you know, Ramirez being handed the first loss of his career, he's rolling into this one. He's taken everything off since. So he's been out 11 months now heading into that fight. And we're going to see how the loss affected him. We're going to see if any of the time off affected him. He's taken time off in the past with injuries, in the not so distant past with promotional issues, and with COVID, he took quite a long time off in between fights. So this one, he's been there before, and we're going to see if he can continue to handle, you know, the layoffs. And then again, but he hasn't been there before where he's coming off of a defeat. So how's he going to react to that? Is he going to be able to bounce back and look good and look sharp? And the fact that he's coming in above the weight, is he going to be able to manage that weight? So we're going to see. A lot of questions need to be answered for Gilberto Ramirez. So what kind of style does Ramirez need to have to win this fight? Well, he comes in 2.5 inches taller, but he has, I think, either a 1/2 inch or a 1 inch disadvantage in terms of reach. What that means to me is he just doesn't need to get, I think he can box from the outside and use his height a little bit. But, you know, I think he needs to start off by boxing and see how quick Joe Smith is. See if Joe Smith is pressing him and trying to land those big power shots, because we know Joe Smith is a big power puncher. But Gilberto Ramirez is also not shabby at landing power shots. The guy's got some pop. He's looked stronger at 175 than he did at 168. So I think he should come out boxing, throwing the jab, throwing combinations, but also take chances here and there, especially once he sees the kind of speed that Joe Smith has. But I also think he needs to focus on breaking Joe Smith down and not getting into an all-out firefight. Joe Smith, the one thing we know about him, you get into a firefight with him and he catches you, that could be it. So I think he needs to avoid getting hit to the body a lot, but also work the body of move side to side, you know, and not let Joe Smith cut the ring off and box and throw those combinations, set up, you know, the scenario that I speak of so often of taking Joe Smith into the deep waters and drowning him. If he does that, I think he can be successful, and I think he could win the fight that way. Now, do I think, or can he beat Joe Smith by knockout? I think he can. Joe Smith, you know, is coming off of a second-round knockout loss to Artur Beterbiev. I want to say his other losses, I can't remember if all of them if the other 3 came by decision, but I do believe Joe Smith can be hurt and can be stopped by Gilberto Ramirez. I think it can be the one punch off of a combination style, and I also think it could be from being broken down. But Joe Smith is very tough. So Gilberto Ramirez, to answer the next question, can he win a decision? I believe he can, and I think he definitely needs to be in shape and built for that, because Joe Smith has proven in the past that he can go 12 rounds, that he's tough as nails. So I don't want anybody to be blinded by the Artur Beterbiev fight, because Artur Beterbiev is just that good, you know, and I think he hurt Joe Smith badly early, which caused the knockout. But that fight, I think most people saw that fight going into the middle later rounds, where Joe Smith has went before. So I definitely think that he can take the fight late, but you know, I do believe that Ramirez can win a decision. Now, what does a win mean for Gilberto Ramirez? Well, it puts him right back in the mix, especially a dominating win. If he dominates Joe Smith, he's right back in that top tier mix, especially at light heavy, because running into Beterbiev and Bivol, what that's proven is that those guys are just on another level, you know. So right now, if Gilberto Ramirez builds and say Bivol and Beterbiev next year at some point fight each other, you know, to determine undisputed, and then decide they want to move to cruiserweight, are they can make 168, you know. Beterbiev, especially if he's one of the guys, he's coming towards the, you know, he's 30, I think he's 38 now. So how long is he going to be around? So Gilberto Ramirez, and he could set up a shot against Beterbiev potentially. So getting back into the mix, setting himself back up, getting better is not a bad thing, and a win right here against Joe Smith will really turn attention his way, you know, because Joe Smith has been beaten before. But let's not forget, both Bivol and Beterbiev have defeated Joe Smith. And both did it in dominating style, just different ways. Bivol shut down Smith for 12 rounds and dominated him, and Beterbiev stopped them early. If Gilberto Ramirez can get a stoppage win, you know, maybe not as early as Beterbiev, but still get a stoppage win, I think that'll be significant for him moving forward big time. So a win, and depending on how he wins, it means a lot to Ramirez. Now, what does a loss mean for Gilberto Ramirez? That's really going to hurt him. Really going to hurt him coming off the loss to Bivol. I don't think he's going to be taken all that serious if he loses to Joe Smith Jr. I just don't think he will, because Joe Smith, again, is a little bit older. He's been in the ring. He's got a little bit more street cred when it comes to fighting the top tier guys. And I think Ramirez, if he were to lose to Joe Smith, and everybody knows what Joe Smith brings to the table with 4 losses on his resume, I think Ramirez will absolutely get dropped down and be looked at as a gatekeeper, you know, and that would be tough for him right now, you know, in his career. So a loss would really be bad, and that's any kind of loss, in my opinion, for Gilberto Ramirez. So we switch over to the underdog heading into the fight, the former light heavyweight champion, Joe Smith Jr. What has he done in his last 3 fights and heading into this fight right here? So we start, his last 3 fights date back to April of 2021. So that's 3 fights in 2.5 years, heading into this fight. He, that night, he captured the vacant WBO title with a hard-fought majority decision win over veteran Maxim Vlasov, as he became a champion for the first time in his you know, his career. He's the ultimate blue chipper, though. Nobody saw that coming. He got the victory after a couple big wins over Jesse Hart, and especially over what was his name? Excuse my language. The guy that knocked out Sergey Kovalev. I believe that was Alistair. I forget his name, but anyway, the guy that knocked out Kovalev the last time. You know, he had 2 big wins over those guys, and you know, that really kind of threw him to the top. But anyway, after the Vlasov win, he returned 9 months later in January of last year, 2022, and he got a stay busy 9th round knockout victory over little-known Steve Griffard that led to the Beterbiev unification clash that took place in June of last year, where Joe Smith just never was able to get started because he got caught in the first round and hurt. And then the second round, he got caught again, never really seemed to recover, and got stopped in that second round as Beterbiev unified 3 of the 4 belts and took Joe Smith's WBO title. So he's heading into this one coming off of a tough knockout loss, 16-month layoff. Joe Smith has had layoffs before, but this one is a long one, and he's going in against a very solid former champion, Gilberto Ramirez. Now, he's 2 years his senior. He's 34, where Ramirez is 32. The height and reach, he's at a 2-inch disadvantage in height, but I believe he has an inch or half an inch reach advantage. So that might help him from stopping Ramirez popping in and out and throwing all those combinations. But Joe Smith has got to use his... the next question is, what does he need to do to win this fight? And he needs to use a jab. He does. He needs to use a jab and set up his big shots. And he also needs to land that left hook to the body. If he can land the left hook to the body, maybe throw a jab and a left hook to the body, I think that sets up the right hand down the middle. And he also needs to make sure Gilberto Ramirez isn't constantly moving to his right to avoid the big right hand. He's going to do that. You know, Gilberto Ramirez should be circling to his right to stay away from Joe Smith's big right hand. And maybe he can take a page out of the Zhang and Joyce book and throw the left hook in that instance. Joe Smith can hook, and he's got power in both hands. So he needs to try to set up Gilberto Ramirez for big shots, but wear down the body too. You know, he needs to be ready for 12 hard rounds as well. So, can Joe Smith win this fight by knockout? I think he can. I think he can hurt Gilberto Ramirez. He just has to be able to catch him. Gilberto Ramirez is going to pop in and out. He's going to box, and I think he's going to punch. And that might be the advantage, but Joe Smith has to make him pay every time he hits him. He's got to work the body. He's got to make him pay. So I do believe he can win by knockout, either by wearing him down or the one-punch style I think he can hurt Gilberto Ramirez with. Now, can Joe Smith win a decision? He'd really have to wear down Joe Smith and hurt him early, and just wear down that body. I think it's more likely he wins by knockout than a decision because Gilberto Ramirez throws a lot of punches. So that's what I see in terms of can he win by decision. I think he can, but it's going to be tough and it's going to be close if it does go to the scorecards and in favor of Joe Smith. Now, what does a win mean for Joe Smith? It keeps him in the serious talks of getting back into serious title contention. It really does. A win, any kind of win over Gilberto Ramirez. So I think that's what it does right there. Now, what does a loss mean for Joe Smith Jr.? Depending on how he loses, one, he's coming into underdog, so I don't think too many people are going to be shocked if he loses this fight. But a dominating loss, you know, especially like the one he had, or if Gilberto Ramirez just breaks him down and dominates him over the fight and stops him late or gets a 12-round decision, I don't think people are going to be too shocked, and I think he just kind of goes into gatekeeper mode, which he can float between 175 and cruiserweight and do whatever the hell he wants and maintain that, you know, and make some money. You know, I don't think Joe Smith, he's a ultimate blue chip type guy, so I don't think it really matters to him, but I do think he's looking at this fight as a I got nothing to lose type scenario. So, you know, a loss hurts, but I don't think it hurts him as bad because he's got 4 losses on his resume. And again, he's that blue chip type attitude, like, hey, losses are going to happen, we bounce back from them. So we'll see. But again, I don't think it hurts him as bad as it hurts Ramirez. So is it better for boxing if Gilberto Ramirez wins this fight or if Joe Smith wins this fight? I think it's better if Gilberto Ramirez wins, strictly because, again, I think we've pretty much seen what Joe Smith brings to the table. We've seen him at his best, and I don't think he can really surprise us anymore with more, you know, other than he's already given. But Gilberto Ramirez, I still think you know, we still don't know all the way how good Gilberto Ramirez really is, because Dimitri Bivol is just a special type fighter who dominated him. So can Ramirez bounce back? Can he look good in this one? And if he does, I think it leaves still some to wonder how good Ramirez is going to be moving forward, how much of a threat he is. So I think it's better for boxing if Gilberto Ramirez wins, but I don't think it's going to be bad for boxing if Joe Smith wins, because Joe Smith is that blue chip, hard-hitting guy that brings entertaining fights and entertaining knockouts. So I hope that one makes sense. Now, my final prediction on this big-time cruiserweight showdown between 2 former champions is I am picking Gilberto Ramirez to break down Joe Smith Jr. and stop him in the middle to later rounds and continue on his journey to be a multi-division world champion and get back in the serious mix, either at light heavyweight or cruiserweight. He has a name, he has a backing, and I think Gilberto Ramirez is hungry. I think he's pissed about the loss, and I think he's going to want to bounce back in a serious way, and I think he's going to get it done. But I do believe Joe Smith Jr. is still a good live underdog that could pull off the upset, but I just think the loss, the time off, and the style mix-up, the style clash here favors Gilberto Ramirez, and I think he's going to pull it out. So I hope you enjoyed the video. This is the the Ramirez versus Smith breakdown video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate any and all support. Again, Ramirez versus Smith breakdown, Saturday, October 7th on DAZN. Don't miss it. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.